Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment in our UX/CX online series. I hope you're as excited as I am for the talks that we have this evening. But before we jump into those, I'd like to give a very quick introduction to UX/DX and why we host these sessions. So at UX/CX, our kind of motto is that the world is full of bad software. And what I mean by this is not software that doesn't work. It's software that technically works, but it's a terrible experience. And I always go back to my banking example of I have a new bank application and a very traditional bank, and they technically do the same things, but there's a world of difference between which one I'll reach for when I'm looking to do any form of banking. And what we believe as a company is that it's actually down to the environment and the processes that companies operate in. And our mission is to help companies build an environment that can't build bad software. So by changing how we work, we can improve our outcomes. And a massive part of that is shifting from working in projects where you're kind of working through waterfall and not able to learn and iterate based on what you learn from customers, to empowered and autonomous product teams where you're continuously iterating based on feedback from your customers, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and changing your products accordingly. And that's where these talks come in. So nobody is going to talk about the entire process of shifting, but what we're asking people to do is share their part of the process about how they're adopting new ways of working or better ways of working. And hopefully you can apply that to your context and see how you can start changing and improving your ways of working. Now, we will leave time for questions at the end of each of the talks, so please do write in your questions on whichever platform you're watching this on, and we'll put those questions through to the speakers. But that's enough about me. You're not here to listen to me talk, so I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this evening, who's Rima Campbell. She's the VP of Experience Research and Strategy at User Testing, and Rima will be talking about how UX measurement wins over executives. So I'd like to welcome Rima to the stage.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Rima.
Hello.
If you can just share your screen, I'll share that with everybody.
All right. Is it working?
Perfect. So over to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. And excited to be here today and looking forward to, have a great discussion. So quickly, how UX measurement wins over executive. Just, excuse me, a little bit about me. So I have 20 years of experience in UX and CX, and CX, of course, UX research. I now work for User Testing as a consultant. But prior to that, I worked for Citi and established a UX Research of Excellence at Citi. Started with $35,000 budget and ended up with $3 million. Started as the only researcher on the team and then built a team of 13 researchers. And then we started as a North America only region for research, and we ended up going global. And that's within 5 years. So you will see a little bit later how we ended up doing that at Citi. Some of the challenges UX is facing in enterprise, as you all know, is really UX getting a seat in the table and getting executive buy-in in doing research across the product development life cycle. Of course, so there's many reasons for why we don't have executive buy-in or why executives struggle to see the value of UX. They focus on immediate ROI, short-term focus, cost concern, especially these days. Everybody is like concerned a little bit about budget and tightening up the belt a little bit. Lack of awareness and perhaps ineffective communication from UX professionals about the value that they bring to the organization and how that impact the business metrics. So how do we actually bridge the gap as UX wants a seat on the table and executives want KPI to measure against? We all know that what can't be measured cannot be managed, right? So how do we confidently say that the design is performing as designed and it's actually impacting the business KPIs? I believe that's how we bridge the gap. McKinsey had ran massive analysis that made convincing case that digital leaders are creating much more shareholder value than the laggard. You can see that in digital services, the gap between leaders and laggards has remained constant. The reason is that it's relatively straightforward to create an app, and new feature is quickly seen and copied. However, that mobile app must perform well. It's actually a table stake these days. Digital sales, however, is much more revealing indicator. Here, leaders are almost double their advantage over laggers over the 5 years period. The analysis showed that digital leaders grow digital sales from 40% to 70%, while digital laggards grew from 8 to 17%. So digital leaders drive growth and profitability. The reason for the large differentiator is that to drive digital sales, leading banks, for example, go well beyond the mobile app to digital transformation. What's hard to see and hard to copy, the end-to-end process from originating to fulfillment services. To do this, they must orchestrate hundreds of teams capable of developing digital and AI innovation these days, right? Day in and day out across all their customer journeys and core businesses processes. Knowing what to do is important, but executing on how to do it and have confidence that it's actually working and performing and engaging customers as well. So that's really what leaders drive growth, digital leaders drive growth. Everyone wants to be a software company these days, if you notice. If you're not online, you're not going to survive. So that means launching software feature faster, improving code quality while increasing developer velocity, building world-class user experiences, yay, and freeing up development time for work that has business impact. What are these digital leaders' secret sauce? According to McKinsey, there's 3 hallmarks of high-performing organization in the digital space. They continually test and iterate. They back research through the product development lifecycle and make data-driven decisions with confidence, statistical significance, and they measure the design performance and its impact on the business goal. They conduct user research, develop user personas, and user journeys. They build user-centered product roadmap, and they measure the impact and make data-driven decisions. So setting a North Star and combining qualitative data with quantitative data measure and demonstrate the value and effectiveness of the design. Here's a quick case study. Back in the days when I was at Citi, that was the first to start measuring and measuring the experience and demonstrate business impact. Business wanted to increase the credit card online application submission by 25% and reduce that call volume related to it. And it's all about shifting to digital, right? And the idea was that, hey, the website has been redesigned, the online application for credit card has been redesigned, so we should be able to achieve that goal. Well, we ran a baseline study, right? One task, basically we measure how participants are able to select a credit card. Are they able to complete the task? What was the ease of use? And we realized that those metrics are a little low. Try to look at analytics, try to look at voice of the customer. We didn't know. We ran a qualitative, exactly the same test, qualitative study where we listen to participants as they complete the task. And we find out that comparing the credit card application is really what's not performing very well. And that's why they're not going to submit the online application. And so with that, we were able to go back to the executive and say, that this is why we're not going to be able to meet that business goal, and we need to redesign that particular experience. The question was, how do you know that those metrics are good metrics or not? So we ran a competitive study and with the exact same task, and we find out that we, amongst all our competitors, performed the lowest in this. So that convinced executive even more because they have metrics to tie it to. They have competitive metrics to tie it to. And with that, we were able to get their commitment to redesign it. We ran the benchmark again, and we realized that we increased the each one of those metrics by 10% at least. And then tracking towards the business goal, we were able to contribute to increasing the online application, credit card applications submitted by 22%, and we reduced the call volume by more than 30%. So that was the initial start. And then from there, the CTO will not receive any requests for any work unless it meets this threshold of those usability metrics. So across the product development life cycle, right, company deliver differentiated experience by informing that the product at every stage, discovery, design, launch, and measure. Measuring the quality of the experience, mitigating risk, aligning with customers' need, and improve time to market is really crucial to really become a true software company. Let me show you what that may look like. Excuse me. So let's meet Alex. Imagine that Alex is your chief digital officer at Verdi Vogue, and you're the UX design leader. And you know that Alex is a digital, for Verdi Vogue, is a digital native brand renowned for its sustainability, luxury footwear, and accessories. Verdi Vogue is on a mission to make sustainable fashion accessible to their target customer across all channels: web, mobile, in-store, social, and other omni-channel. However, the road to success is paved with challenges. The industry market changes are very quickly. To stay ahead, Alex's product team must be agile, customer focused, and innovative. We all facing that, and I hear that from our customers every day. So that's a big challenge, right? So Alex has two primary goals: deliver differentiated experience, create and positively impact revenue, and build those experiences better, faster, and cheaper than the competition. To do this, Alex has approached customer insight in a number of ways by investing in focus group, market research, A/B testing, session replay, analytic tool, online review, and the list goes on. But on top of that, we all know that those traditional approaches like analytic platform, A/B testing, they're really not giving an indication of true customer centricity. Why is it working? Why is it not working? How that differentiate me from the competition? So the only solution that allow Alex to even start to think about managing and that experience and making sure that it's aligned with users' need and it's innovative and fast is to actually look at every resources available and realizing there's missing information. There are tons of gaps. In the analytic, it doesn't tell you the why. You look at the survey, there is not much depth of information about customers' need and behavior and attitude. And the list goes on. So what really matters the most here is waste. How do we know that the experience that we're running, it is a good experience, that it's not going to cost a lot of rework and wasted effort or resources, which, as you can see here from the graph, it is massive. And that's not what she wanted to create. So measuring the quality, measuring the experience quality, the quality of the experience with a QX score. I mean, of course, you can use any quality experience score, but this is a QX score that is actually plotted as a 100-point index, and it's used to benchmark your experiences as well as those of your competitor over time. So for Alex, she has a standard that before the experience goes live or even moving forward to the next step in the product development lifecycle, she makes sure to use that QX score that her researchers and design leaders agree to at every stage of the development. As you can see, this score is 100, right? But it's also 50% behavioral. How did they do? And the other 50% is attitudinal, what they think about it, how they react to it, what they think will about the experience overall, from an ease of use, look and feel, appearance, as well as will they recommend that experience to friends and family. So before she goes live, she wanted to make sure she hit that 80%, 80 plus score before we go into development. And with that, she'll be able to save on rework and make sure that the experience is relative to its competitor. It helps her identify experience strengths and weaknesses outside of her industry to ultimately inform her roadmap. So as she look at experience and measure the quality, whether it's a prototype or current experience, we wanted to make sure that we know that what to prioritize in the roadmap to improve those weaknesses as well. As you can see from the scorecard here, when you run an NMAR-rated quant study to measure the quality of the experience, you choose tasks that has direct impact to the business KPI. And with that, you'll be able to track with confidence if they completed those tasks successfully. And then you also look at the score for each of the attitudinal measures. So it will tell you right away which tasks need more work and which attitudinal measure that needs improvement. So to recap, measuring quality experience, improve the quality with stage gate in product development lifecycle, save development costs by validating before development, and improve the customer experience by identifying strengths and weaknesses with confidence, and then stay ahead via competitive benchmarking as a differentiator. With that, you build experience that customer love, boost productivity, and drive more business impact. You get a seat at the table. So now you say, well, how do I start? Quick framework: activate, ignite, and then drive. So how you activate? You really want to identify what matters most to the executive. Talking to executive is pretty clear that all matter to them is their business KPIs. And then you identify a pilot project that focus on a user journey, and you connect that UX metrics for that project to the business metrics. And then you run the quality score study, qual and quant. You always want to balance the two because you need to know the why. And also know your competitor QX score. As you sit on the table and talk to product and talk to your chief marketing officer, chief product officer, you need to know the weaknesses and strengths. You need to be able to educate them and build trust with that QX score. And it's a measure. So for them, you will have their ear because you're talking about KPIs and how that KPI is impacting their KPI. And then you prioritize the improvement with stakeholder, test and iterate and benchmark until you reach that threshold of 80 plus. And then you visualize and track and share progress regularly as you have QX score for all the digital experiences that you're responsible for. And you continually build on that scorecard and make it visually available and accessible to all across the organization. And then you can tell stories and continue measuring experiences and managing experiences successfully, and have a seat at the table. So why connect UX metrics to business KPI? I talked about that a little bit, but there's a quote here. The one thing that really the business leaders understand are KPIs. So QX score provide that consistent and comparable way to measure UX across studies, product, and business unit, and build consensus across the organization. If you would think about a model, why the experience score has impact to the revenue, it definitely has a direct impact to, if you look, it's like a level 4, right? It's the lowest level. Increase ease of use, increase task success, reduce click path, comprehension, improve user satisfaction. In terms, it has a direct impact on the product specific goals, increase conversion rate, task success rate, increase volume and transaction, reduce abandonment rate. And then with that, you go up to level 2, where those metrics are actually impacting divisional goal metrics in terms of number of new customer, to increase new customer, retaining existing customer, improve brand awareness, increase NPS, and improve customer satisfaction. And with that, as you all know, those divisional goals had direct impact on the enterprise financial goals, where revenue of the organization and decreasing costs matter the most. So if you think about it from that perspective, it makes more sense. And we call that the 21st century UX metrics framework. Want to play a quick video from our best customers, American Airlines, that stood up a benchmarking program. We're really happy for them. Our colleague Lucas and Kimberly here.
At American Airlines, our purpose is really to care for people on life's journey. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're coming up on our 100th birthday at American Airlines in a few years. And with that just becomes a deep-rooted history of lots of industry firsts and lots of innovation.
Even though we're not a digital native company, we're not setting the expectations. The leaders in technology are setting the expectations. And as a really large brand, we have to perform at that level. It's what's expected of us by our customers. We've got folks who are shopping and looking around.
More than the US population visits our website annually.
We adopted user testing in the first place to be able to talk with our customers, to get their feedback on the different prototypes and products that we build. User testing essentially is the medium between us and our customers.
The 4 key areas for us are shopping and booking, managing and being able to change that booking, the day of travel experience holistically, and then the thread across all of those is the advantage.
We use user testing to ensure that we're keeping up with the experiences. QX score essentially takes what customers are doing on the page and pairs that with their attitudes. And what QX score then does is combines those two to create a composite score that we could then take to leadership and show the quality of an experience. For the digital experiences we've measured with QX score, after going back and making changes, we were able to achieve an, on average, 15% increase in QX score. When we went back and changed the concepts, we were able to achieve a 37% increase across the board for all of those tasks.
We've been able to test our early prototypes or the website or the app or even real life experiences that our customers go through. For example, interacting with the kiosk at the airport.
This is taking a human on a literal customer journey and being able to talk to humans and talk to customers along the way as we design this experience, whether that's digital or hard product, is critical.
Travel can be complicated, and there's lots of emotion that goes along with travel. What we can do at American Airlines is make it the easiest for our customers to engage with. User testing gives us the human insight that we need to ensure that we're truly meeting our customer needs.
All right, so now you got to see it on the table quickly. Some stories from other customers as well, like Kimberly Clark, when they stood up the measurement program, they were able to drive prioritization and demonstrate progress. And also Kroger, same thing, they were able to know that they're building the right solution because now they have a seat on the table and they're able to conduct UX research at the discovery stage. Don't we all want to do that? And then Adobe, they actually embedded the UX metrics in the performance reviews of the UX team and the product team. So won't play those videos. They're all available on Vimeo. So I will open up to questions, and thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rima. That was really interesting, particularly how you can kind of convert that qualitative aspect into a more quantitative metric that a lot of senior executives are looking for.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Excellent. So if anybody has any questions out there, please do post them in. So Jose has asked about the slides and the recording. So yes, we will be publishing the recording. And Rima, if you're happy to share the slides, we can post that with them as well.
Sure.
But if anybody has any other questions, please do ask them. I'm going to jump in with one. I think that's incredibly powerful to have that QX score, but it feels to me like there's a step before that where you need to get the buy-in before you even have the data to show how important the buy-in is. And particularly in like some of those examples that you gave, American Airlines, Kroger, they're what you would call traditional businesses. They're not digital native businesses. So how do you go about convincing them on step one, how to invest the first place before you can get your QX score?
Great question. I think it really requires someone to take this on as its own initiative and take one for the team, take a risk. You know, as what I did at Citi, it's not easy. It's like taking a side project and take it to the next level, without asking for permission. We all in an enterprise organization, we have access to tools, right? Like user testing and user Zoom and Validate another. So even Maze, other tool that will be able to kind of help you run those baseline to kind of find out what is going on and measure the quality of that experience so that you are more informed and you have the quant data that matter to the executive and you have the why data to show them that you know the root cause of the problem and how, if you really attach those metrics to their KPI to show them how that directly impact their KPI, they will listen because they want to, they want to know what is going to impact their business KPIs. And if you have numbers and you have quant data and the why, you'll be able to convince them.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's always the challenge, but take that first initiative and use the tools that you currently have to try build the case.
Yeah, it requires tenacity and passion for sure.
Excellent. That actually brings us to time, but if anybody has any questions, please do post them in and we'll get those questions to Rima. We have a Slack channel as well, so please feel free to keep posting. But thank you once again to Rima for sharing that case study. I found it really insightful and I hope everybody out there did as well.
Thank you.
Great. So up next, we have Betsy Frekot, who is a UX researcher at Ibotta, and she'll be talking about how to build an engineering culture of why. So I'd like to welcome Betsy to the stage. Over to you, Betsy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to How to Build an Engineering Culture of Why. You're probably wondering, what's the UX researcher doing talking about this? But I'm here today as a result of last year's UXDX conference in New York. There was a lot of questions coming through from engineering managers, product teams across the board. And And a colleague of mine, also a UX researcher, found there was maybe some ways that research and UX research could impact this question. So thanks for joining me today, everyone. If you're a designer, an engineer, a product person, welcome. Some of the questions that came up last year that we're going to look at today, we're going to start with a little bit of broader product intro to myself, but then we'll get into a case study of an example of a squad that I work with currently that does a really great job of building that culture of why around what they're building for. Some of the questions that came up last year during the conference was, how do we get engineers closer to the discovery phase, to the user needs and problems? And once we get them to that stage, how do we make it worth their time? You know, it's enough to get the buy-in for engineering teams and engineers to be involved at this stage, but how do we make sure that they're feeling empowered and confident to provide insights in that stage? And how does that all lead into this bigger question of getting the why behind what they're building? No one's out here to build a product like we were talking about with the goal of UX/DX is, you know, there's bad software. You want to make sure that it's good software that people are actually using and they enjoy using. So these are the questions that we're tackling today with this case study, but I'd love to start with an introduction into who I am. So I'm Betsy, a senior UX researcher at Ibotta. I wanted to share this little background just to give you a little bit more context from where I'm coming from when it comes to the product development space and the work that I do. I have a pretty strong background in psychology and psychological research throughout my entire academics, really focused on human behavior, feelings, and really synthesizing the full human aspect of things. So that's my academic background, really focused on people. I went into customer success and sales, directly talking to end consumers, directly talking to potential clients and customers, as well as current ones, really working on the customer mapping, journey mapping from a sales perspective, understanding pain points and how to fulfill those needs. But again, focusing on the human at the end of a service or a product. And now I'm here in UX design and UX research, which again is super human focused, very one-on-one primary source. I live with the client thoughts and feedback in my brain in every meeting that I sit in. So I have the privilege of constantly being so close to the end consumer, or the end user in this case. I'll be changing the end user from now on. But throughout my entire academic and career, it's always very primary source data that's sitting in my head when I'm talking about solving problems or ideating around solutions. So just giving you a little context of the privilege I know I have to be so close to the end user. But that's not the case for everyone building a product. There's plenty of ways to look at a development team when building a product. Today, I've just put this visual of the product triad just to show visually a way to look at this development. We have product, we have design, and we have engineering. Today, we're talking about getting engineers closer to the why behind some of the solutions and technical solutions, because we're all aiming for this middle ground, which is solving real-life user problems. But the problem here is that UX research typically tends to sit within only the design space, maybe this intersection between product and design, where you're looking at real-life client feedback or user feedback from a target market fit product lens, or from a user empathy lens from UX design. But there's all this visual space and conceptual space between some of the UX research and the engineering team. That overlap isn't so obvious to fill. But today we're going to go through a case study with one of the teams that I work with. Other researchers on this call know that we aren't typically embedded in one product triad or one squad at a time. So again, I have a privilege of being able to see a variety of different squads in the way that they function. And today's case study is focusing on a really positive squad culture around why and the problems behind the solutions that they're building. So this case study is really focusing on the ways that a particular squad that I work with is doing a great job of bringing their engineers closer to the end user and the solutions that they're building. So a little bit of context about this particular squad. It is a B2B, business to business SaaS product. So some of the examples are going to be more B2B focused, but I will chime in with a little bit of direct consumer D2C examples as well within this framework that we've been using. But that's a little bit of the background. I won't be able to share too many specifics, so I have a video that won't have any visuals beyond sound, but it's still worth checking out. So I wanted to start this case study with the outcome first, which feels a bit backwards, but I think really shows why bringing engineers to the end users is so important. We talk about making sure we have a product that people will use, making sure that you're not building something as a Band-Aid fix. A lot of engineering squads might feel disconnected from that, but this particular squad has 3 things that I really think show the end behaviors of bringing them closer to the end user and the benefits to the whole team when that happens. The first one is a bit self-serving and probably one of my favorite outcomes from this, but when your engineers feel really close to the end user, you've got really engaged and interactive participants. And I don't mean participants in an interview or a survey, but I mean participants in dialogue, readouts, workshops. You have a really engaged group of engineers who want to ask questions. They want to interact with the data and understand on a deeper level. As a UX researcher, I'm sure many on the call would understand when you're kind of talking to the abyss, when you're just reading out a lot of findings and there's no questions and there isn't a lot of dialogue. It's really difficult to get to the meat of the insights. So again, for me, this is self-serving, really great outcome of having engineers that are close to the end users. But also for the team, you have empowered problem solvers. I think often we want to bring engineers into this discovery phase, but we're not really enabling them with the data to be confident and empowered to speak up. So if we're able to give them the context and the why, again, we're back to that why of why we're looking at the particular problem, what's the analytical data, what's the user feedback that's really grounding them in the problem that they're trying to solve for. So you have a team that's empowered to ideate, not just be in the room. That's bringing that question of how do we make it worth their time? Well, you want to make sure that they're prepared with all of the data and the feedback beforehand. And then finally, you have advocates for data-supported solutions. Again, they're feeling empowered. These two kind of go hand in hand. If they're feeling empowered that they understand the data, they understand what the client end goals are, they understand the client problems, their day-to-day, the journey, they're able to advocate for data-supported solutions. So we're bringing them into discovery. We want to make sure that they're feeling like they understand the user enough to provide solutions that will matter and getting to the root cause of things without just putting a Band-Aid on it. So again, this is just a little bit of some of the outcomes from the work that we did with this team that I will now go into a little bit more in detail. But how did we get to the squad to a point where they feel like they're user advocates, they feel empowered, they're engaged, they're excited? We had 4 actionable ways we cultivated this culture. So I'm going to jump into each of these 4. The first one, got lovely hands stacked here for collaboration. The first thing that you need to do is find alignment across. We saw that lovely triad with engineering, product, and design. We want to make sure that if this is something that's prioritized, we want engineers closer to the end user, we want designers, we want product managers, we want everyone rooted in what is the end goal for our users, what problems are they facing, then it needs to be something that every team is aligned with. Another thing that was helpful in this particular case for this squad was bringing in additional squad leads. So traditionally, the triad is the engineering managers, the product managers, the design managers, but this particular case study extended to UX research and product analytics. So finding collaboration and alignment with these included, as well as squad leads, helped create a space for me as a researcher, but also other people on the team to understand the research in a deeper sense too. So it created a space where new research or data analytics findings were shared across the domains. a little bit easier than just doing a readout or sharing a report or something along those lines. You're already getting the leads across these different domains, chatting about it, talking about next steps, thinking about ideation and solutions in that time. Additionally, it made scoping gaps in research or questions along the lines from analytics as well. It made it easier to find the best equipped teams to understand how to answer outstanding questions. Oftentimes, a product manager, an engineering manager, a designer, a UX researcher might have an assumption or a question that pops up, and the best case scenario to answer that question might be a user interview, it might be a beta test, it might be an A/B test, it might be something that analytics is best to answer with organic behavior versus getting deeper into the why with some of the qualitative UXR methodologies. But having everyone in the room, one, allows you to scope who's best to answer those questions and quickly gets the team aligned on who can support with that methodology too. When we think about beta testing and A/B testing, you're going to need designers to design the differences, and you're going to need engineering. If you're doing a beta test where people are using real live code, you want buy-in from all the teams on what methodology is going to be best suited to answer that question. So having collaboration across the board was super helpful. The next thing that we did as a team was create ceremonies and carve out time for the engineering team to learn and engage with this information. The last one was getting leadership leads all bought into this idea that we want the end users at the forefront. But if it's something prioritized, you have to set intentional time set aside to make sure that the engineers are having time to think and engage and discuss the new findings as well. In this scenario, our lovely product manager created a once-a-month empathy workshop. This was something new to me I'd never seen before, and really helped the engineering team get closer to the end users through those who are speaking to our end users on a daily basis, or talking to or going through the processes that maybe they're not privy to otherwise. This allowed these empathy workshops broaden stakeholders across the company. So we had market research, UX research coming in, doing readouts, discussions, giving a little bit more details. But we also had other stakeholders across the company come in and answer direct questions, talk about processes, talk about goals that they've seen. An example for the market and UX research teams, this particular group was newer formed. So starting kind of in green grass area of getting at foundational research, understanding the users before building a new product. So market research was actually brought in alignment with myself to talk personas, to talk higher level goals of our users, and really get into the nitty gritty foundational work. I've added customer care here as an example of someone to bring into an empathy workshop. Maybe you're more in direct to consumer products where you're getting a bunch of customer feedback through chats in-app, or you're getting emails, you're having complaints or something like along those lines, where they're able to speak to that and really bring more light into the engineers into understanding what those problems are, coming more organically through customer care. And then finally, with our B2B process, we had a lot of account team interaction, sales teams, really getting into the nitty gritty of what they're hearing from our customer and end user base that could bring more context to our engineers as well. So this was something that it really creates the ceremony of every month, making sure that we're bringing in somebody new, and the product manager really prioritized this, which you could see made a big difference. The next one is pulling engineers into live research. So this especially came up from our conference last year at UXDX of what are some of the small things maybe you can't carve out all the time. You're still working on the buy-in to get that extra hour a month or 2 hours a month for more ceremonial user empathy workshops. You can always pull in engineers for a live interview or a live usability test. I'm thinking about when I'm invited to a pre-recorded webinar versus a real-time live. How engaged are you? The difference between watching someone talk or having the access to ask questions in live time are two different kind of engagement styles. So bringing them into the live sessions helps not only the engineers, but also the researchers. In my previous experience, having the engineers in some of these usability calls or in these kind of live qual interviews helped get some of direct questions back and forth. With the SaaS product, there were questions that were technological capabilities and questions that might be something I would have to ask engineering after the fact to get more context on. But having them already in that interview helped me ask those questions up front without the delay back and forth and be able to assist this user in real time. Additionally, engineers get primary source feedback. Again, back to the, here, watch this 5-minute video or watch this highlight, watch this 30-minute call. Getting that experience of watching people use your product in real time just provides additional context and might increase engagement as well. And finally, this one is my favorite one, and I think probably the most popular too. If you have a smaller research team or, again, have a little less buy-in for some of the more spread out empathy workshop type styles, we have celebrating and sharing user wins. No one wants to build something that no one uses, and surely don't want to make someone's experience worse. And this is where UX research gets to shine. We have that primary source data. Say they couldn't make the live interviews, but maybe you're interviewing 20 people and you want to give some of that feedback. Maybe you heard something really cool about a problem that everyone was working on for weeks, and you hear somebody with an audible gasp and an excited demeanor. Hearing that in real time, that's the best. Hearing that in a video short clip on Slack, also really great. Seeing it as a quote in a recap deck, not as exciting. In this scenario, we're going to pretend that you're an engineer that worked on a feature for the last 6 months. And Betsy, your UX researcher, just interviewed somebody who just interacted with this new feature. Again, couldn't show you the feature in particular, so you get to just see my awkward interview face. But imagine this option in real life versus just a quote. So this is feedback that if you're an engineer that you've been working for 6 months.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, that is such a good idea. So good. Okay.
So imagine you've really worked on this super hard and you have someone saying, wow, what a great idea. The audible gasp sits in your head a little bit longer than just a quote. Wow, what a great idea, versus a real person interacting with it. So in this case, I'll often share maybe some feedback recaps, a short highlight, or sprinkle in some quotes. Sometimes we get from our account teams, we'll sprinkle in some feedback that they're hearing, but just really encouraging that process as a product progresses. Speaking of progress, also UX benchmarking has been something that's been super helpful with really being able to communicate user wins with engineers. We had, like I said, this was a pretty new product, and being able to benchmark this new product versus an experience previously, and then show that over time, that with every feedback session, we had a few features pop up or a few problems pop up. We did some ideation, we pulled them in, we looked at technical solutions. At the time of the next benchmark, seeing that number go up and that problem be solved is just a nice, satisfying moment for everybody. And sharing that win directly with the engineers who worked on it for months has been really helpful and super exciting for me as well, because you get to win with everyone. But all of these lovely actionable ways to cultivate why would fall flat. You could have none of them if all the teams don't collaborate from the forefront. So if we look back at that product triad, if you have only buy-in from a few members and not everyone, you have engineers looking to get into some real-time feedback from clients, but maybe you have a researcher who's uncomfortable bringing them into live interviews, but maybe there's a different solution that they can bring the engineers closer. Or if you have a researcher who's so excited to bring this to the engineering team, but there might be some problems with getting the buy-in from engineering or product, just working together to make sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to keeping the end user at the forefront is the biggest takeaway from this case study is that all the product leads had buy-in from each other and also from leadership, that it was worth the engineers' time, and those end behaviors were the result of that. So thank you so much, everyone. I would like to open the time for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Betsy. That was really interesting, kind of very thorough walkthrough of the different ways to get involved. So I'm a massive fan. I'm a convert already of getting more people involved in upfront research, because I think all the points that you said, as well as just making sure that everybody really internalizes what are the needs and what are kind of customers actually care about and what they don't care about too much. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, Jose's doing a great job of saying how great the event is. So that's obviously a kudos to you, Betsy. But if anybody has any questions, please do post them in and I'll ask them through to Betsy. We have a few minutes of time. I'm going to kick it off. You mentioned about the empathy workshop, and then the next one was, oh, I don't like watching things in kind of like pre-recorded. I much prefer things that are live. So how valuable are those empathy workshops, considering all of the information that's going to be shared is secondhand? It's not going to be direct from customers. It's going to be via somebody else. Yeah,
that's a good question. I think the benefit of the empathy workshops is, even if the data is something that maybe happened previously, you're getting that real-time live conversation. So you have, if you're just reading a report and you have questions, maybe you're putting it in the comments and then maybe I'll get to it. But if we're having a workshop and I'm explaining a persona or a user group and you have questions in that moment, like, okay, what does this mean a little bit more? Or can you show me an example of this? You have that real time. The data is not in real time, but the conversation is in more of a workshop style rather than, here, read this. If you have questions, let me know. I think that can be a little bit intimidating for people to just reach out to me if you have any questions. Normally goes unanswered. So. Or
if I'm going to be honest, when you see those emails or Slack messages come in, you don't read them.
No. Or you just like emoji
it. Yeah, I'll get back to that. I will. I promise.
Right. Sounds so cool. Love it. Yeah.
So you mentioned about the challenges of getting people involved in live participation, and that could be either the engineers aren't interested or the researchers a bit protective or different things like that. What have you seen have been, I guess it's a two-part, in your experience, where has been the biggest challenge? And then two, how have you overcome that?
Yeah, funny enough, I'm thinking about the engineers I work with now, and the desire to be in the interviews is definitely not the problem. That could be your problem. It's not a problem I've been facing. I think when it comes to, scheduling, so just finding the time, sometimes they're hours, sometimes they're 30 minutes, but there's definitely, I don't think it's the engineering teams or even the researchers, it's just aligning that schedule. And, if you're interviewing one person, you probably shouldn't have 4 or 5 people. You don't want it to feel like a panel. So I think it comes more down to like a logistical, can we make that time and where can we find the most value of spending that time in a user engaged interview or something like that. So yeah, often it's about having a good ratio of observer to participant and then getting that scheduled on, maybe if they have a lot of feature work or they're working on a lot of things at the time, they might not have 30 minutes to an hour to spare.
And do you ever kind of have it's recorded and people are just sitting in the back room kind of watching, or is it always kind of that panel? Because I agree, a panel of people can be quite intimidating.
Yeah, there's definitely softwares out there that allow you to have the back-end observers. That's where, in this case scenario with SaaS products, it's kind of, you want to make sure that you're getting people who are using your product, so we're kind of sitting in the Zoom world. And so Zoom doesn't have the back end. But so yeah, definitely trying to lean on some of those products where you can pull in observers on the back end has been really helpful. And I was previously more on a D2C side where we had maybe participant panels we can pull from.
Awesome. We have a question from the audience. Can you give some tips on how to build that collaboration across teams when everyone is remote? will never be in the same space because people are in different countries?
That is a great question. And I'm currently very remote, so that's perfect. But I think the first thing is getting comfortable in a shared chat, and building trust. I think there's plenty of books about teamwork and building that trust first, but you want to feel trusted, and you want to be able to trust everyone that you're working with in the collaboration space. So building trust, whether it be, finding that time to do more in-depth intros, but building that you can trust them to do their side of the work and find that middle ground. But from a remote standpoint, I can only speak from experience with this team, but I do think if you have something like Slack, or if you're on Windows, like just really getting into finding shared wins. It's really nice to be able to bond over that. So that's something that I found to be really helpful. Like, hey, let's all be really excited about this audible gasp. And then from there, it just kind of makes, it's a small thing, but those really make a difference. And so I think if you're looking at remote, just really celebrating the wins together has been really helpful on our team.
Awesome. One thing you kind of touched on that got me thinking was it's kind of building trust, but when you mentioned about the engineers and, oh, this is a technical answer, is there any kind of training or anything, I guess media training, that kind of thing of you can say this to customers and you can't say this to customers. So something like that, because people might unintentionally, I don't think it's a like negative thing, but they might unintentionally say things in a way or divulge information that they shouldn't.
100%. In that scenario that I was speaking to, they were kind of like my ghostwriter. Hilariously enough, like they were just kind of sending me direct messages, and I was then sending it to the user, and I would change the vocab to user language. So I think when it comes to the training, that's something that you would breach once you get there. But in that scenario, it was more like they were note taking and sending me DMs. And so then you have, again, that's kind of why I started with my intro, always kind of been front people facing. So you have lean on people's strengths. So if you feel like you have a technical answer, don't know how to reach this person reach a client, you have lean into a skill set that maybe your designer, researcher might have to get that communication across. So in that case scenario, I translated.
Excellent. And have you had that, like, I guess, just following up, have you had that situation where you do have that panel, the physical panel of people? And is that something that you've encountered is there, I know with other people, they do a kind of a little bit of a user research 101 training.
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I always have people change their names to like note taker. One, I've never had more than 2 at a time. And primarily I like to do 1 because I have a lot of one-on-one interviews. So it'll be my note taker and then myself. And I will, the kind of 101 that I give is, hey, you're a note taker. Also, if you do have a question, communicate it through me. If you have a comment or you have a follow-up, I'm very open to having the DMs coming through. I know that that's not the case for everyone. I want to just say that because I know I kind of do about 10 things at once, and that helps me stay very focused. So when it comes to a one-on-one, like 101, it's more so just being observant and rather staying, more of an observer.
Brilliant. Well, that actually brings us to time. So I just want to thank you once again, Betsy, for sharing. That was really interesting.
All right, thank you.
So up next, we have Toby, who's a product designer coming all the way from Nigeria, and he'll be talking about the power of being a generalist designer in 2024. So I'd like to welcome Toby to the stage. I seem to be having a problem with your slides, Toby. Okay, they're appearing now, and you're mute at the moment. Your video is just mute at the moment, Toby. No, we can see, we were able to see your slides. It was the video. Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now perfectly. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you
Over
very
to you
much.
now. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. It's evening here in Nigeria where I'm speaking from, and my name is Animasaun Oluwatobiloba, but you can call me Toby for short. It's a very easy way of calling my first name actually. And I would actually like to thank Rory and Catherine for giving me the opportunity to speak at UXDX. This is my first time here, though, and I would also like to come back if I'm permitted to. Okay, a little bit about myself. I've been given a platform, right? But why am I actually giving this platform? Who am I in the first place? Okay, as I've said before, my name is Animasaun Oluwatobiloba Goodness, and I'm a multidisciplinary designer with 3 years of experience spanning different creative fields. I've worked in UI UX, I've worked with branding, illustration, I've worked as a creative director, and also I'm a graduate, right? I have a degree in I have a BSc in computer science from Federal University of Agriculture, Ibotta, and previously my last employment was at CBO for Africa, where I worked as a product designer and design tutor for a year. And currently, I'm engaged as a freelance product designer and brand designer. Having said all this, having gone through these different stages of design, different fields of design, UI, UX design, branding, illustration, creative direction, and so many other parts. What does this actually enable me to talk about? What does it give me like a platform to talk about? I would actually really like if I had a real time audience. But I'll do what I have. I'll make do what I have. So my talk title is Unleashing Your Potential as General Designer and Your Power as General Designer in 2024. That topic, what does it mean, and who is my target audience for this talk? Okay, I have 4 different target audience for this talk. I have the specialist designers, the generalist designers, and I also have non-designers, which is kind of different from what the other 2 speakers have talking about. I have non-designers in my plan for this talk, and then the fourth category is actually Nigerian designers. I would give a brief reason why I said that. Okay, the reason why I said non-designers are actually in my talk, my reason for this talk is because I'm standing as a poacher. I'm standing as a poacher for you want to do design. Okay, yeah, generally design is the best way to go. Then also for Nigerian designers, there's this neglect kind of for African designers generally when you don't have a wide array of skills on a global market. So this has pushed so many Nigerian designers into generalist design. Most Nigerian designers are mostly generalist design, and which is not an issue for me because it is something I love doing as generalist designer. But not everyone wants to become a generalist. Some people want to specialize. Some people just want to do their UI UX and rest. Some people want to do their graphic design, rest. Some people want to do their motion design and rest. But I actually don't have any problem with that. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Unlocking your design potential, the power of general designers explores the freedom that comes with being a generalist in design. With a wide range of skills, you can easily switch between sectors, industries, work mode, which says either contracts, you want to work contract, you want to work full time, you want to work as a freelancer. This gives you the opportunity to be able to work and you hold the playing cards. Okay, so what are we trying to talk about today? I said previously in my slide that you need to have a wide range of skills. So what are the skills you need to have? Do you need to have all these skills? Are they really important like that to have all these skills for you to become a generalist designer? What industries would these skills enable you to work in? How would these skills help in your job search? And what are some general designers? And then I'll show you my own work. So it can just be see if I'm leading you where I haven't done any work on my own. Let's dive in. What skills do you need to have? What skills do you need to have? The frenzy that is going on everywhere is okay, UI, UX design, product design. Everyone wants to get into this space. UI, UX, UI, anyone. Brand identity design is another skill. Illustration is another skill. Typography is another skill. Motion design is another skill you need to have. 3D design is another skill. You need to have graphic design, mesh design, photo manipulation. There are so many other skills like you need to have, but we are going to run through all of this today, and we'll see that I would try to see if you actually need all these skills to become a generalist design, or do I actually need a little bit of them to become a generalist design? So, do you really need to learn all these skills? My answer is definitely no. In sense of not everyone actually has the mental capability to take on so many skills. Not everyone has the interest in other skills. So it's not like I'm forcing you to become a general designer. No. This is actually going to be an interactive session. Interactive session with no audience though, but it's actually going to be fun. So let's move forward. Yeah, you can see on my slides, you can see a bunch of newspapers, The Nation, The Guardian, The Wall Street, The Telegraph, and the New York Times. Why am I showing you this? As general designer, one of the main ingredients to have is curiosity. Let me give you a little story about myself so I can dive into this slide. Okay, I started as a graphic designer. Then I got curious. Curiosity actually brought me into this field. Curiosity. I saw some 3D designs. I was like, oh wow, I should be able to do something like that. How was that done? It made me curious and decided to learn Blender. I saw motion design. I was like, wow, my static designs can actually move. So how is that done? Yeah, it brought me into motion design. And I'm showing this newspaper page because I actually asked myself question that why are all newspapers like this? Who is the first person to create a newspaper and made it this way? So curiosity is actually one of the best ways that I can become a general designer. So this, the Guardian. The Guardian it's a UK newspaper. The Nation is a Nigerian newspaper. Wall Street is in the US. The Telegraph is in Indian, and New York Times is also a US magazine. But they have almost the same design. So the curiosity made me ask that who is the first person that designed this? Why is it like this? Why couldn't it be more colorful? Why could it not be like an app or something like that? So curiosity is actually one of your greatest strengths and dedication. So after all the skills you need to have, UI, UX design, brand identity design, illustration, typography, motion design, 3D design, graphic design, and design for the manipulations. And I've answered the question of do you need to learn all the skills? And I've given you an answer of no. So let's make this practical. Tobias is a guy that has 3 skills: illustration, motion design, and graphics design. And he's asking, what industries can I work in? He's asking. So by the time we are close to the end of this slides, you'll be able to answer the question marks on my slides. Firstly, he can work in tech. He can work in tech because he has illustration. But we'll answer these questions at the end of the. So what industries can you work in as a generalist designer, and what skills do you need to have in each industries? So tech is the main one in the market right now. So some of the skills you need to have as a tech designer, or probably an in-house tech designer, general designer for a tech company. Branding, you need to have branding. Companies need logo these days. They need consistent branding of maybe their previous logo. So you definitely have to be proficient in branding for you to work with a tech company as general designer. You have to know how to design a user interface, UI/UX design. You have to know how to present your branding, because motion actually enhances branding. It's one of the things that enhances branding. It enhances your logo animation, then illustrations. One of the tech sites that actually use illustration more are the fintechs. They use illustration of coin, different payments, different types of illustrations just to depict their payments, the fintechs. So illustration is actually a skill you need to have. Then graphic design. If I actually had a live audience, I would have, when we are done, I would have actually asked that after me going through all this, which industries do you think Toby with only 3 skills can actually work in? Well, let's move forward. So you can actually use Adobe Illustrator for your illustration, Figma for UI UX design, Adobe After Effects for your motion design. Other softwares include Adobe XD, Procreate, Protopie, and Adobe Premiere Pro. Let's move forward. As a general designer, you can work in fashion, and you have skills needed. These are necessary skills, not necessarily the only skills needed. So we have motion design, illustration or sketching, and 3D design. Clo 3D is Clo 3D is a 3D design only for fashion designers, for people in the fashion space. Blender can be used, but Blender is not the main 3D software for the fashion space. So Clo 3D is actually a 3D design software that helps in the cutting and other parts of fashion design. The motion design using After Effects, Procreate for illustration or sketching of video. Procreate is an Apple iPad app that only works on Apple iPad at the moment. Okay, so fashion, you need motion design, illustration, sketching, then 3D designs. Let's move forward. As general designer, you can work in entertainment or sports. Then you need motion design, illustration for the manipulation. I would like us to take note of these skills regarding Toby, the guy that has just illustration, motion design, and graphic design as his only skills. The industries and sectors you can actually have a say in. So in entertainment or sports, you need motion design, which you can use Adobe After Effects for. Illustrations, you can use Procreate for the manipulation, you can use Adobe Photoshop for. Then other softwares includes Lightroom, then Adobe Illustrator for your illustration. Then general designer can work in manufacturing or packaging sector, which you need 3D design to create your mockups from scratch, packaging design, photo manipulations to present the mockups, motion design to present the mockups in a video format, then typography to have on the packagings. So these your softwares that you need are Blender. Blender actually works well with in these 3D aspects compared to the fashion where Clo 3D is one that works well. So Blender works well here for a packaging design, mockup, Adobe After Effects, then Adobe Photoshop. Another sector is the education sector. Giving an instance of a graphic or a designer in a university, he needs graphic design for the social media pages to increase the visual aesthetics of the page, then mesh design to design some maybe basketball jersey, different jerseys for the school, maybe sweaters and all of that, mesh design, then motion designs to present the designs he has made. So you need software like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe After Effects. Other softwares include Lightroom. Then press, another sector, also press and advertising. So graphics design and motion design. Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe After Effects, and other softwares include Lightroom and Adobe Illustrator. Then the government. In most countries, because there's this frenzy about tech, everyone wants to work in tech. The government sector has actually been neglected. That's why we see subpar designs coming out from the government, announcements, subpar logos coming out from the government. But if we, as generalist designers, can actually know that we can actually work in so many industries, we would represent designer community better. So governments, who work in governments, graphic design, motion design, and you can do this with Adobe After Effects, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe Photoshop. I could have asked this question if I was in real time, but from all those industries I've given, Toby can work in so many industries, even though he has only 3 design skills: illustration, motion design, and graphic design. He can work in tech. Illustration is needed. He can work in fashion. Illustration and motion design is needed. Can work in entertainment, motion design and illustration is needed. It can work with manufacturing and packaging sector. The motion design is needed, and it can work in education sector. Graphic design and motion design is needed. It can also work in press and government. So, how does this help in job search? How does it help in job search? Company asks for more now. We are in 2024. Companies ask for more. They demand more of their designers. And even though some companies be doing too much for real, they want a graphic designer, but all their requirements and job description states that they actually want a developer that is good in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and they actually want a UI UX designer with motion designer with 3D design, just in one person, and a little pay. Even though companies be asking for too much, but it's actually necessary these days for you to upskill as a generalist designer. Okay, so these are some job applications from LinkedIn that shows why it's important being a generalist designer. This is a senior graphic designer. That's the job title, and it's QR code remote. So the first, they need create they need the designer to create highly and creative, engaging concepts and ideas for the design and execution of visual and communication assets across digital platforms. They need senior graphic designer, but they need advanced skills in Figma, iBlender, After Effects, even though it's optional, and focus on digital design. So this shows that a being a general design is actually what is going on right now and helps in job search. It increases the chance of getting a job. Another type is they're asking for user interface design. So they need him to design interface, wireframe, prototyping, graphic design. He needs to create icons, graphics, and visual elements to enhance the interface and communicate information properly. Responsive design, ensure that designs are responsive to and adaptable to different screen sizes and devices. Collaboration, work closely with cross-functional teams, including UX designers, developer, and product manager to translate user requirements to design solution. They are asking for a junior UX designer, canonical, remote. Said, junior have the vital role of source of Ubuntu. So you know the ins and out of typography. As I said before, it's a skill you need to learn. Using in and out of typography, color, and layout, and you care deeply about usability, accessibility, and web standards. You should have an agency, company, or freelance design experience. Another example is that shows general design is actually what's in vogue right now is as a visual UI designer, they actually need you to have knowledge of InDesign, Illustrator, Figma, and Photoshop. Let me give you okay. Last one, motion graphic designer at Abzone Limited, Lagos State, Nigeria. Animation of design assets, creating animation mock-up of UI or web pages. Use computer and editing software programs, video switching device, digital video. Okay, bring static images to life through the motion graphics. They create 2D and 3D animation. This is actually where I'm going. 2D and 3D animations. So if a motion designer says, okay, I'm just motion, let me just work with 2D. Where does is actually really at the pecking below the pecking order when this job application is asking for 3D animation. It's actually below the pecking order already. So what does being a general designer help you do? It helps you to understand and have better problem solving skills. General designers are natural problem solvers because if you've had experience in so many fields of design, it becomes kind of easy for you to become a team lead, and team leader are expected to be problem solvers and you think outside of the box. Consistent branding. When you actually handle both the branding and illustration, or maybe the branding, or maybe the design of an app and the illustration, you actually know what you want, you illustrate what you want, then you use it in the UI of the app if you have the skill of a UI designer and illustrator. Because sometimes you want to work with other designers, and even though collaboration is actually very, very good, but sometimes you want to work with other designers and they're not really delivering what you actually want. But if you have ideas in this each field, you can actually communicate well to the illustrator, or you can just illustrate it yourself to have a consistent visual language across all touch points. Then creative freedom. You are not limited by bunch of single discipline as we talked about before. You can work in so many industries. You can experiment freely, blending different styles and techniques to create truly unique designs. This creative freedom often leads to innovative solutions that are standards in a crowded job market, as we always talked before. It makes you stand out in a crowded job market. Better chances of getting a job. We've talked about it. So, who is a popular generalist designer? Virgil Abloh is one. When you hear of Virgil Abloh, you think of the former Louis Vuitton creative director, but he's definitely more than that. Added to his exploits in fashion, he has worked on visual designs in the entertainment industry and furniture industry, to the extent of he didn't just work on the entertainment industry just once. There's a complex article. Complex is a music blog that says a history of Virgil Abloh's album covers. So definitely didn't work in only fashion, and definitely did not work in music just maybe as a side also, or maybe something he just did once. I would share the link on my LinkedIn page after I'm done with the talk. So he actually worked on different album covers. So these are some of the album covers he worked on. He worked Kanye West Jesus in 2013, Kid Cudi's Wizard in 2012, and Uzi's Love is Rage in 2017. Then also worked in the furniture industry. He had a collaboration with IKEA. It's called Macarad Collection, Virgil Abloh and IKEA's collaboration. So this is an example of a general designer who, rest in peace to him, who actually stood out in so many of the things he did, even though he did so many things. Okay, so I've told you a lot about other people and how does it help you to stand out in a crowded job market. So the person who is speaking to you, is it just speaking from theory, or has actually done works in different creative fields of design? And the answer is yes. I have worked on illustrations, branding, UI design, mesh design, book design, concept design, logo design, and I will actually, my next slide will start with mesh design. So Benson is actually a Nigerian Afrobeat artist, and I worked on a merch for him back since '97 on his EP. Worked on merch design. Benson back since '97 merch design. These are the designs. Then these are them in the mock-up and real time. Then I also worked on Jordan Wood design, a jersey design for the brand Jordan Wood. Then I've also worked on illustrations. When I heard Burger King was coming to Nigeria, even though I wasn't commissioned, this was just a personal project. I decided to illustrate the three main tribes in Nigeria, just to show support of them coming to Nigeria. That was last year. So this is an illustration that I did. This is a Fulani tribe or Hausa tribe. This is the Yoruba tribe, and this is the Igbo tribe. And I also worked on Google Independence Day illustration, which showcased some parts, Nigerian Google Independence Day, which showcased some parts of Nigeria, which shows the Central Bank of Nigeria, the National Theatre, Welcome to Abuja, Zuma Rock, and the confluence rivers, River Niger and River Benue. This was illustrated by me. This is an illustration, the Edge coin that shows, this is an illustration by me that I did for a called Edge coin. So these are some of the illustrations they needed to do. Coins, Ethereum, safekeeping of their assets, and this is for another brand, a fintech brand that helps international transfer. So the illustration of different monuments or landmarks of different countries were illustrated by me also. I've worked on UI UX design before also. I worked on Archive. a cloud storage company, something like Dropbox or iCloud or Google Drive. So I worked on the UI design of this. I can drop the link when I'm done. I'll drop the link to my portfolio to check all this and more about them. I worked on brand design, brand. I worked on brand design. I worked on archive brand design. Archive is actually the company I talked about before. That's a cloud computing, cloud storage company. Then Grant is one I talked about before. So that enables international transfers of money, brand design. Then I worked on a little bit of motion design, also for the presentation of all these brands. This one playing right now is the stickers for the Grand brand stickers. These are the presentations of. Also, this is a launch video, a little launch video for archive when they were. I also worked on concept design. This was actually a personal project also. I imagined if Netflix and Coca-Cola had a collaboration together, Netflix and Chilled, which was just a playful concept design by me. Shows Netflix and Chilled with the cold background. Shows different ways you can take the Coke and different devices you can watch on. Coca-Cola, 6 bottle, can, pets, TV, tablets, mobile phone, and laptop. Then that's a little bit of my expert in concept design. And with this, I'll say I've come to the end of my talk, and thank you very much for listening. Any questions will be attended to. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Toby, for giving us kind of a history of your experiences there. We are just about actually out of time, so unfortunately we don't have time for questions, but I just want to thank you once again for sharing your kind of background, your history there. It was quite interesting, and we always try to see what's happening in some different markets as well to kind of get more of a global feel. So it kind of gave us a bit more insight into the Nigerian market. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to talk also.
No problem. Well, that actually brings us to the end for this evening. So if you did like the concept of breaking down the barriers between product UX design and dev, we have a conference coming up in USA in May, in just 2 weeks now, where you'll get to see Rima again if you want to dive into more details about the kind of her background and her knowledge she'll be presenting there. We'll also have 25 other speakers, there's 10 workshops, 500 attendees. So that's quite short notice. But if you are interested as well, we also hold a similar conference in EMEA in October, where it's a bit larger than our USA one, with kind of double the size of everything. But I just want to say thank you once again to all of our speakers tonight for sharing their examples and their case studies and sharing their knowledge with you. I want to thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you at the next UXDX Online. Thank you.